Alright, so this is how I found best to set up the laundry alternative Miniwash Pink, not Miniwash Blue. The only difference is the color of the lid, no difference in model or functionality whatsoever. So I have it plugged in over here to my wall outlet, and then over here I'll just be draining into the sink. I have the fill hose connected to my faucet. It's great to see a fill hose that actually attaches to a faucet. Normally when you buy these machines, this attachment right here ends up being way too small, but it works great. And I'm going to take the other end here. Remember that the port is kind of on the back right side, so I'm just going to attach that right there. And then I'm going to open up the lid, and I'm just going to use warm water. I'm going to kind of be doing a combination of I'm going to be doing a combination of whites and colors. I'm basically just going to be washing the outfit that I wore to work today. So it's going to be 2 socks, it's going to be 2 white undershirts, one I had from yesterday, I'm just going to throw it in here, but 2 white undershirts, dress shirt, and then a pair of dress pants. This is a pretty small unit in terms of capacity, both volume and the power of it. It's only rated, I think, for about 5 or 6 pounds. But yeah, so we're going to let this fill it up, and then probably when it gets about 3/4 of the way to the top, I will stop it, add the clothes, and if I need to, then I can always add more water. Remember, you can always add more water, otherwise you got to start draining. It is a gravity drain, so there is no pump on this particular unit, and make sure when you're filling this up that you have this tube over here connected to the top with the little hook. Otherwise, if you leave it down in your drain, it's just going to start draining the water right out of the unit. So we'll be back when this is full, and I'll add the clothes. Alright guys, now I have the water about 3/4 of the way full. I know on this video it's going to look like it's only half full, but that's just the angle I'm staring at the water with the refraction through the light of it. It's actually 3/4 of the way full of water. So I'm going to add the clothes. Actually, before I add the clothes, let me go ahead and turn on the washer so that you can see how the pulsing agitator works. So, nice thing about this unit is it does spin in both directions. This is great for untangling the clothes, and it just agitates it a little bit more because you're taking that water that will eventually have the detergent, and you're really spinning it in both directions, which is going to force that detergent through the clothes and your fabric, and that's going to pick up all that dirt and grime, and that's really what you want to see out of a washer. That's why your big, large washers that have that central agitator, you'll see it swish side to side instead of corkscrewing in one direction. And that's just because you really want to agitate the clothes. This looks like it's going to do a good job, so let me go ahead and add my clothes, and I'll see you in a minute. Sorry, one thing before I add the clothes is I'm actually going to add a tablespoon of my powdered detergent. Now, I make this one myself. I'll post a link to the recipe or add an annotation with a link to the video. But for quick, it's just 1 bar of finely grated felt naphtha, one cup of borax, and 1 cup of Arm & Hammer washing soda, and then you mix all those together. But yeah, this is just a tablespoon, so I'm going to go ahead and add it to the water. I'm going to turn it on just for a couple seconds, let it kind of agitate, and then I'm going to take those clothes there, and I'm going to add it to the unit, so I'll see you in a minute. Alright, so I've added everything except for the pants. I also added a bit more water to this. This seems to be agitating these clothes in here pretty good. I'm afraid if I add the pants, it's going to be too much. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and add the pants, and if it's too much, it's no big deal. I'll just take them out, and I'll spin them with the rest of the clothes in the spin dryer that I'm going to be reviewing in a different video. So let's go ahead and try and add those dress pants. Alright, so I've added those dress pants, and it seems like it's overloaded it, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and take those dress pants out, and we'll keep going. Alright, so I've taken those dress pants out, and it seems to be agitating a lot better like I want it. One thing I noticed about the timer over here is it's kind of hard to turn when you turn it clockwise to start the timer, but it goes back very easy, and I'm not quite sure if this affects the timing cycle of it or not, but if I turn it here, the unit will turn back on and I hear it clicking, but it still moves very easy until I reach about here, which is about how long it's taken since I started at 15 minutes. And then right here it gets harder, and I can click it back to 15. So just an interesting feature. I'll have to test it later to see if that actually affects the time. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this to 3 minutes, and I want to see if the timer actually goes for 3 minutes or if it's still going to try and go for about 11 minutes, which is where I was feeling the resistance. So I'll get the answer to that to you guys in just a minute. Alright guys, so it's still going, but it looks like it's getting ready to snap off. I want to be able to show that to you guys. I did measure, it is about 3 minutes, so despite that resistance not being there, from kind of like when you take a kitchen egg timer and you twist it all the way one way, and then you set it to a different time, you're not going to feel that wind-up resistance when you try and turn it back again, but it is in fact still keeping the proper time. And I'm going to make a hypothesis that when it hits 0, it's going to kind of snap, and it's going to take all of that spring tension out of the little turn knob, and then I'll turn it back on and we'll see if that's the case. Alright guys, so this dial has been stuck at about 1/10 of a second to 0 for about the last 2 minutes. So I don't know if it's going to sit here all the way until all that spring tension is taken out, but just a consideration, I will have to probably take off half a star for this particular loss of feature, because the timer is not accurate. If you turn the dial all the way to 15 and then you move it over to, let's say, the 3 mark, it should take 3 minutes, and it's probably been about 5 to 6 minutes, and we're still waiting for it to click off. Now, if all of that resistance was taken out and I turned it to 3, it would probably keep perfect time to 3. But the unfortunate problem is when I turn it, see right here, this is where the resistance is. It's been about 3 to 4 minutes. There's no way to take this resistance out of the system. If I turn it to 0, it just clicks off. But that resistance is still there. So I literally have it. Just be aware, it's kind of a one shot. If you turn it to 15 minutes, you're gonna have to let it run the full 15 minutes if you go past your desired time. So just keep that in mind. Just a little caveat about this particular machine. Alright, so I've thrown the pans in there just to kind of get them out of my sink so I can show you guys the drain. It's done washing. I let it run for the full amount of time. That did take the spring tension out of that knob, as I mentioned before. And the way you drain this, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see the water level is about here, which matches where the water level is here in the unit, because this is just a gravity drain. So all we simply have to do to drain the water out is to lower that tube down, and if we watch the machine, we can see that water level is draining pretty good. So we'll be back when all this water is drained out. Alright guys, so at this point, pretty much all the water has drained out of the unit. So this machine does not have a spin dryer or any sort of dryer to it. I'm kind of just letting the clothes kind of gravity dry just for a little bit. As the weight of their own clothes kind of press down on each other, it's draining out just a little bit more. You can also take your hand and push down a little bit. And you can see when I did that, I got a little bit more water to come out. But you will need to wring these by hand to dry them, put them in a tumble dryer or something like that. Or the little surprise that I have for the next video is I also ordered the Nina's spin machine from the Laundry Alternative. It's supposed to be a really good spinner, has a very large capacity. So this was kind of a small load, and I have 1 or 2 towels. I want to try and see. I know those dress pans would have washed just fine if I put it in just by itself, but I do want to kind of stress test this machine, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to put in 1 white shower towel and see how that does, and then I'm going to put in a second one, and we'll see how that stresses the machine. Real quick guys, something I forgot is you will want to do a rinse cycle with the clothes when they're done. So like I said, if you have a spinner or a dryer, you can use that. Or you can just wring them out by hand, but you will want to fill this back up with clean water, no detergent. You can add a fabric softener if you choose, but you will want to probably set this to 5 minutes. Let the clothes kind of rinse out the detergent that's left in there, and that'll keep your clothes from getting all crusty from the laundry detergent left in there. So don't forget your rinse cycle. It's very important that you don't forget your rinse cycle. But I've gone ahead and filled this up with water, so I'm going to add a little bit of detergent to this water, and then I'm going to throw in one towel. We'll see how it does, and then we will try a second towel to really stress it out, because this is a small unit. Alright guys, moment of truth. Let's go ahead and let's add the first towel. Now, I do want to give it some time, because the towel does need to really get full of water. Yeah, that seems to be agitating pretty good, so this machine will at least do a single towel by itself. You could probably throw in a couple pairs of socks, maybe a t-shirt or two, something else that's going to be fluffy and minty, which actually, I'm going to turn this off for a second. That reminds me, one other final thing. I keep forgetting things in this video, but this particular unit does not have a lint trap anywhere on the machine. Underneath here, I thought maybe that was the lint trap. That's just a blue piece of plastic. I don't know what that does. But this machine does not have a lint trap, so just be aware of that. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, add the second towel, and I'll show you guys what happens. Alright guys, so this is the machine with 2 of the towels in it. And it's actually doing a surprisingly good job agitating it. Every now and then it does get stuck and it doesn't really agitate all that well. What's nice to see about this particular unit is that pulsing agitator on the bottom does not seem to be grabbing the towels and trying to rip them, which may be a concern if people are going to use this to wash their dress shirts like I am. But yeah, 2 towels is definitely possible. I would not do more than 2 towels or 1 towel and a shirt or 2 and a couple socks and underwear. So just be aware, this is probably the limit for this machine. I'm not going to push it to 3 towels. 2 is pretty clearly the limit. Alright guys, have a great day. Check out my other videos, and if you'd like to see more content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye guys.